All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're glad you're here. Hello to Bill, and we're talking about textures, and we're just going to go through the easy part very quickly. So we'll grab a box here and make a drawing space, and we're going to talk about 3D structures, and we're going to talk about characteristics of 3D structures. And before we get to the 3D structures, let's just bring in this picture of a little church out here in the forest. It's pretty old. I called it Forest Church. This is a kind of a square-on view of it, and has a pretty impressive doorway here and some windows. And you can see on one end it has a buttress in the middle of the end of the church. Here's that big doorway. Here's a steeple on the top with a bell in it, and has a kind of a cross-like shape to it. And this is the church that I was requested to make a 3D drawing of, and that's what we're talking about with respect to textures. And so we can start out by saying what I call is just an educational 3D drawing. And we can go freehand and create a drawing, beginnings of a church here. And we have the cross on the top. And, you know, it's not a perfect drawing, but it certainly shows the church. And this is what I would call as just educational. It would allow us to talk about the church if we had to. All right, and this is the next level up from educational, and I call this correct. This is the proportions of that church, and we've got the little steeple end of it up here, so you know which end of the church is the steeple end. This is the non-steeple end. This is the steeple end. This is the church. This is a correct drawing. And somebody might say, well, that doesn't really look right. So we'll give it some color. And now that's sort of like the color of stones or bricks. And somebody might say, well, that's not really what color the picture looks like. So we'll go back and get the picture, and we see that it has this yellow-white limestone. Here's some yellow coloration to it. There's areas that got dark. So let's see if we can fix the church. And one thing we can do is just see if we can find a color more in keeping with what we're seeing. That's close. And so we went from educational to correct, and now we're getting the color straight. So I'm going to call this church perfect, and or perfect level 1. And so now we're going to say, well, that really doesn't look quite right. So is there something else we can do? And we do actually have permission to go out and get textures, and we can start adding some texture material to this structure, and we can actually even edit that texture to increase its size. And that's starting to look like the bricks that were on the church. And it's not bad, and we can actually edit the colors if we want to, and try to get out some more of that yellowish that this church had. And what you may notice on this particular rendition of this is that it does have these lines in it, but these lines in it are the lines that were put in it by the people who created this texture. And again, we are now going to progress beyond the discussion of just having it perfect and say, what's the next level up? Or what is it that we're trying to do with this drawing? And I am going to make the point that I don't want the drawing to be perfect. I want it to be beautiful. So I want people's eyes to be drawn to it and say, oh, that's really nice.